Hi there. In this video, we're going to talk about absolute value. Now, absolute value means the distance from zero. And the one thing I know about distance is that this is always positive, all right? It doesn't matter what direction you are traveling in, but what we're talking about is the distance between any number and zero, all right? So let's first talk about some notation, all right? When I write this out, the notation that I use to talk about absolute value is I use two lines like this with a number in between, okay? So for example, if I wanted to calculate, evaluate, all right, the absolute value of 3, okay? What I do is I draw a number line, all right? And I put 0 somewhere, and I find the number 3 on that number line. So 1, 2, 3. All right. I plot this number here, and I go, what's the distance between 3 and 0? How many units away is that? And that's going to be 3. All right. So the absolute value of 3 is equal to 3 because my distance was 3. All right. Now, the other thing I want to do is evaluate the absolute value of -3. And all I'm doing is I'm simply drawing a number line and I'm going, all right, well, here's 0, here's -3 right here. And I want to know the distance from -3 to 0. How far away is -3 from 0? And the answer is 3, all right? So the absolute value of -3 is 3. So let's draw a conclusion from this, all right? So the conclusion that we can draw from this situation is that if I take the absolute value of 3, I get 3. If I take the absolute value of -3, I get 3. So the conclusion that we can make is that whatever is inside your absolute value, so whatever is inside your absolute value will always be positive, all right? And the reason for that is because of the definition, all right? Remember that the definition of absolute value is the distance from 0, and that distance is always positive. That's how we get that, okay? So let's work on a couple of these examples, and then we'll do a couple of problems where we have to evaluate using absolute value. So on this, what I want to do is evaluate the following. I want to evaluate the absolute value of 4. So the distance from 4 to 0 is simply 4. And again, all I'm doing is taking whatever's inside of my absolute value and making it positive. So the same thing here. The absolute value of -7 is simply just what's the distance from -7 to 0. And whatever's inside your absolute value, you make positive. So you just get an answer of 7. Now on this one, we've got a big number here. The absolute value of -1,378. Now, what's the distance from this number to 0? And that's simply just going to be 1,378. And all I'm doing is taking whatever is inside of my absolute value and making it positive. Now, the next thing I want to do is be able to put this all together and evaluate some expressions using these numbers and absolute value. So the first thing I want to do is read this, and this says the absolute value of -3 plus the absolute value of 4 minus the absolute value of -10. So when I'm doing this, all I want to do is take the absolute value of each of these numbers, but keep my symbols here the same. All right, so the absolute value of -3 is going to be 3, plus the absolute value of 4 is 4, minus the absolute value of -10, which is +10. And from there, I want to work left to right and answer my question. So 3 plus 4, well, that gives me 7. And then minus 10 gives me a total value of -3. Now, even though I got a negative number after evaluating and adding these numbers, that's okay. Because what I'm doing is I'm taking the absolute value first. Once you've taken the absolute value and you add or subtract these numbers, it's going to do whatever it's going to do. All right, so it's okay to get a negative number out of this, but what we want to make sure is that we can do the step from here to here and take the absolute value of -3, the absolute value of 4, and the absolute value of -10, and then drop your signs down and then just do the math. So hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.